Hi, Rashonda Kate here, and we are reading Hagar's Daughter. We are on chapter 24. The book is by Pauline Hopkins. Let's get in it. Terrible discovering this morning in Treasury Building. Arrest on suspicion of Mr. Cuthbert Sumner. That was the startling headline that met Jewel Bowen's eyes on that eventful Monday morning and sent the blood back to her heart. She had opened the paper lazily, glanced at the leaders, and with "there's never anything interesting in the paper," turned to another sheet and suddenly sat transfixed, her wide eyes seeing nothing but that one startling headline that danced before her straining gaze, then stood still, that at first appeared to be printed in great black type and then turned into blood red letters. In an instant, the reserve and coldness of weeks was swept aside. He was again her lover. His deadly peril gripped her very heartstrings and filled her whole being anew with all the strength and passion of woman's noblest love that at once, without a second pause, throws aside all but honor itself for the being who is her world. She had not read the account of the tragedy, but not for one instant did a thought of guilt associate itself in her mind with Cuthbert Sumner. Guilty of a heinous crime? She laughed aloud at the bare idea. In that moment, she forgot the new duties lately assumed toward another. Promises had been forced upon her, she had told herself often of late, with regret, and none could blame her if she swerved in the moment of trial from the exact path of duty. Now, she thanked God it was not yet a crime to think of the man she loved. Wow, okay. So promises were forced upon her. So what's his name? Benson was like, "Yeah, she's my intended." And apparently that made it so because she feels like she is engaged to Benson, right? And she said in that moment she forgot the new duties lately assumed toward another, but then she thanked God it was not yet a crime to think of the man she loved. So were she already married to Benson, it would be criminal, it would be adulterous to think of the man she actually loved, Cuthbert Sumner. All right, let's keep reading. She calmed herself presently and read the brief account given in the morning edition of the Washington News. With the sheet closely clutched in her hand, she sought her mother. Mrs. Bowen's maid was just serving her lady with breakfast as Jewel knocked and then entered the room. Mrs. Bowen was seated comfortably before the fire, opening her morning mail. "Jewel, what on earth is the matter? What is wrong?" exclaimed her mother, startled at the strange look on her face. "Cuthbert is arrested, charged with murder." Mrs. Bowen turned very white. "Great heaven, Jewel! No, no, it is too horrible." "Read that," said the girl, laying the paper in her mother's lap. The elder woman read the printed sheet and gazed up at her daughter with incredulous eyes. "You do not believe him guilty?" "Guilty?" The one word spoke volumes. "What can we do to help him? It is unfortunate that your father is away." "I have not thought yet," the determined woman spoke in the next sentence. "I shall visit him first of all." "Jewel!" exclaimed her mother in a shocked tone. "What will the general think?" "What he pleases," was the defiant answer. Before Mrs. Bowen could protest, there was a hurried knock at the door, which, opening, admitted Venus. There were traces of tears on her face. "Please, miss, Mr. Sumner's man is in the hall asking if you will see him for a minute." "Show him right up here, Venus." Okay, so like, is Venus concerned about her missing grandmother though? Like, what a, I guess you don't show that. John entered the presence of the two ladies with deep distress and alarm in his honest face. He looked years older than he did the day before. There was a strong affection between master and man. He came forward eagerly, his hands holding his cap and twitching nervously. "Oh, Mrs. Bowen and young miss, I beg your pardon, but I don't know what to do. I've telegraphed the old gentleman." "Yes, John. When will he be here?" The ladies spoke together. "The old gentleman's had shock and the doctor dasn't to tell him, but the family lawyer will be here tomorrow to take charge. But I can't keep still, ma'am. I had to come and see you. I've been in the Sumner family, boy and man, for 20 years, and they're used me white, ma'am. Miss right straight through. Claire, I'd do anything on earth for Mr. Cuthbert. They are used me white. And they're used me white, ma'am." Like they used him up till he was white. They used me white. I don't know what that means. If you have an idea of what that means, though, type it in the comments. Let us know. How does your mister bear it, John? Like a lamb, miss, ma'am. I've been there now, just came from there, been taking his orders and things. All he says is, John, there's a mistake. It'll be all right in a day or two. But I don't believe it. I feel uneasy. I thought maybe you all would tell me what more I can do. That's right, John. We will help you all we can. These are evil days that have come to us lately. But in spite of her brave words, Mrs. Bowen looked about her in a helpless, bewildered way. Then she appealed to her daughter. Jewel, what do you advise, dear? The first thing to do is to see Cuthbert. I'm going to drive down to the jail and have a long talk with him. Jewel! Well, Mamma, if we intend to benefit him, there is but one way. Venus, order me a herdic. I won't wait for the carriage, she said, turning to her maid. Why, what are you crying about, silly child? They can't hang Mr. Sumner without a trial. She's crying because her grandma's lost. Yes'm, I know that, but it's my granny too, miss. We can't find her, said the girl with a burst of tears. Again John spoke, trying to explain the matter to the bewildered ladies. It's old Miss Sargent. What did you say? Interrupted Mrs. Bowen sharply, leaning forward in her chair. Sargent, ma'am. Old Aunt Henny Sargent. She's Venus's grandmother. She's a cleaner up at the department, and she's disappeared. Ain't been seen since last night when she went into the buildings to clean up. Taking that and putting it with the murder and other funny things that's been happening about Mr. Sumner lately, it appears to me that something underhand is going on, he said with a deferential bow. Venus, come with me. John, be good enough to order the herdic. I will look into this matter and see what can be done. And Jewel turned to leave the room. Please, miss, do you mind if I take a seat on the box? Asked John. Certainly not. And the trio quitted the room, leaving Mrs. Bowen alone. I feel like dun dun dun. What's going to happen next? So that was shorter than our last chapters that we read. So that was chapter 24 of Hagar's Daughter by Pauline Hopkins. I'm Rashonda Cade. Until next time.